As we gather to celebrate the Mass of the 5th Sunday of Lent, the readings speak to us about God's mercy, forgiveness, and compassion. His mercy, His forgiveness, and His compassion. The prophet Isaiah, the first reading, gives this message to the Jews who were suffering in captivity in Babylon. That was the second captivity. The first one was in Egypt. So the prophet today, Prophet Isaiah, encourages them, reminds them of God's mercy, His forgiveness, and His compassion. St. Paul, in the second reading, reminds the Philippians of the same message, that without God, their life would have no meaning. It is Christ that gives meaning to their lives. Then the gospel gives us a clearer understanding of how the mercy, the compassion, the forgiveness of God works. A woman, according to this gospel passage, was caught in adultery. She was brought before Jesus. The penalty, the punishment for her sin would be for her to be stoned to death. That was what the law recommended. The people who brought her to Jesus could have stoned her. Why did they bring her to Jesus? Just one reason. The simple reason they were looking for some reason to charge Jesus for contravening, going against the law of Moses. They were testing him to see if he would contradict the practice, the tradition, the law of the people. Now there are some theories. Number one is, did this woman really do what they said she did? Was it a setup they were using to get to Jesus? Or did she really commit the sin for which they brought her before Jesus? But if we follow the whole event, the interaction between them and Jesus, Jesus said to the woman at the end, go and do not sin anymore. So we would then take it that this woman most likely was guilty of the sin for which they brought her to Jesus. Their expectation, the expectation of the people was to Jesus, for Jesus to give a go-ahead order to stone the woman, according to the law of Moses. But Jesus did not say anything initially. He kept writing on the ground. And as they kept pestering him and asking him what his opinion was, he looked them straight in the face and he said to them, let the one among you who's never sinned be the one to cast the first stone. Jesus challenged them to examine their consciences. Jesus challenged them to look inward, to see their soul, to see their minds. In other words, Jesus made them understand that they were in no way better than the woman standing in the middle of all the problem. He convicted them. So they lacked the courage to kill the woman because they knew they were guilty of sin. They knew if the law was supposed to be applied, none of them would be standing. And so they walked away, one by one. They did not challenge Jesus. They did not kill the woman. They walked away because they knew they were guilty of sin. They knew they were no better than the woman. Her own situation was different because it was public. They saw their mind, they saw their own souls, they examined their own conscience, and they discovered, I have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I deserve the same punishment I am asking Jesus to render about this woman. Whole point is, Jesus let them convict themselves. And once they convicted themselves, they lacked the courage to move on with execution of the woman. They lacked the courage to challenge Jesus any longer. Is there anything we can learn from this incident in the Bible, in the scriptures? You know, oftentimes we are quick, we are very quick to notice, take note of the shortcomings, the imperfection, the sinfulness of other people. We know what their blind spots are. We know their weaknesses. We judge them. Judge them according to their imperfection. We judge people according to their shortcomings. And as we do this, we refuse to accept, take responsibility for our own shortcomings and imperfection. Nobody is perfect, but God alone. We all have our imperfections, we all have our shortcomings. As we judge other people, as we condemn their shortcomings and their imperfections, we should also examine our consciences. We should do some soul searching. We should search our hearts and discover our own imperfections and our own shortcomings. Overcome them. We should be able to remove the plank in our eyes before we begin to see the splinter in the eyes of our brothers and sisters. Sometimes we see the sins of other people. We don't see our own. Because for us, we are perfect. Nobody is perfect. And the measure with which you measure should be measured out to you. The people who brought this woman to Jesus should expect the same punishment for their sins, according to the law. Because sin is sin, whether it is public or private. Punishment is the same. The woman may be killed physically because her sin was public. For those whose sins are private, they are dead spiritually. And that is the worst form of death. Jesus is calling us today to show mercy, to show forgiveness, to show compassion. Jesus is letting us know that we also are imperfect. We have sinned, in need of God's mercy and forgiveness. in need of the mercy and forgiveness of our brothers and sisters. Before we point fingers on anyone, let us search our hearts, search our souls, and be the best we can. Follow God's law. Abide by the teachings of Jesus. It becomes a hypocrisy when we set standards for other people that we ourselves cannot meet. Before you set standards for someone else, be sure you can meet that standard yourself. Oftentimes, we set standards for other people, standards we know we ourselves cannot meet. Jesus is asking us to see ourselves as people in need of God's mercy and forgiveness. At the same time, asking us as the people willing to forgive and show compassion to our brothers and sisters. He's asking us to change our ways before we can see the shortcomings and the imperfection in other people. We have to walk towards perfection ourselves. We have to overcome our own imperfection, our own shortcomings before we can see those of others. And what we expect of other people, we should be willing to do ourselves, because the measure with which we measure will in turn be measured out to us. That was why all those people walked away. They knew they were guilty. They deserved the same punishment the woman that was before Jesus deserved. And they walked away. So today our prayer is this: that God gives us the grace, always and at all times, to be a people willing to acknowledge our sinfulness, our imperfection, our shortcomings, asking God for the grace to overcome them. To pray for our brothers and sisters in their own shortcomings, their imperfections, to forgive, to show compassion, asking God to help everyone. If we do this, we will be doing the will of the Father who sent Jesus. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.